Hello, English 1A. So we need to talk about how to package the evidence so that it's really persuasive when it's on the page. The previous module was all about trying to figure out what kind of evidence you need for the claim that you're making in your body paragraph through that topic sentence. So this is basically after you have most of the stuff that you need, maybe all of it, you are going to start putting the evidence into paragraphs, and you want it to look really good because you went through all the trouble of trying to get it and trying to figure out what kind of evidence you need and writing this paper. Like, you want it to be the best looking evidence you could possibly find. So this is one of 3 short videos that are about the different types of evidence and how to make them look good on the page. So the 3 are authoritative testimony, anecdotal evidence, and statistical research studies. This has come up a couple of times already in the past couple of weeks on the Canvas site, but we're going to get into what each one of these are as well. Okay, so we're just going to do this evidence type in this video. So this is a type of evidence called authoritative testimony. Here's why it's important. So let's say you get this email. How would you respond to it? It says, "Dear BCC student, in consideration of the financial difficulties working students face while working through the coursework requirements to achieve their academic goals, BCC will reduce the length of the semester from 18 weeks to 10 weeks. As a decision was made in the spring semester," this one right now, "you will all earn A's in all your assigned courses. The classes are over, and you will receive a refund for the 6 weeks you paid for at the beginning of the semester. Respectfully, Linda." So it's kind of something you might want to believe at this point, especially considering that we're coming up on the deadline for all of the final papers. So it's a stressful time, and you get this email about now. You might want to believe it, but let's take a look down here. Respectfully, Linda. So you might want to ask, who the hell is Linda? And why does she have the authority to send this message? Because if you pull out of the semester, right as it's ending, all the big assignments are due. And if this isn't authoritative, you're going to end up getting a really bad grade in the class because you believed what was said here. So for something that's big like this, like all the things that you're claiming in your research papers, you want a little bit more than Linda going on as the person that you're attributing this information to. So here would be one that would be a little bit more believable. It's the same letter, but notice here we have Dr. Denise Richardson, president of Berkeley City College, and we also have the chancellor of Peralta Community College District. So these are 2 very high-level administrators, and they are more likely to have the authority and the knowledge that would allow them to make the kind of email that they sent you and have you actually read that email and think of it as something true. So if we look at this, it's the president of Berkeley City College. It's actually just said right in there. So that's her job title. That's a great way to let people know that she has the right to say this. We also have a little bit of prestige here. She's a doctor. So we have a title. That's nice. And then also with Gilgerson, we have another job title. So that's one way you can show the reader that this person has the authority to say what they're saying. So here's what authoritative testimony actually is. It is evidence that features an expert opinion. In an argumentative essay, this type of evidence shows that the most informed people think the same way you do about your topic. So the thing with authoritative testimony is that it's really just someone saying stuff, right? And anyone could just say an opinion. What we need to do to make the evidence persuasive, however, is make it so that we know why this person is an expert that is so knowledgeable that what he just says is awesome. So let's look a little bit at some examples, because I'm talking about trying to get this all on the page, right? Okay, so authoritative testimony, here's some of the stuff that we want to actually add to the evidence when we present it on the page. So in order to use authoritative testimony persuasively, the writer must provide information about the authority being cited. Readers will want specific information about the authority's credentials. So we want to look a little bit at what counts as credentials. There's a lot. So you can have a place of employment, like we did in the email. You have a job title, academic degrees, awards, government agency affiliation, research institution affiliation, university affiliation. There's tons of other stuff that you could do to show the person knows what they're talking about in the opinion that they just gave you. So the credentials, trying to put them together is a little bit trickier because sometimes people have a huge amount of credentials and sometimes they don't have very much and it's very hard to find. So you want to make sure that you have exactly the credentials you need to make the testimony authoritative and no other credentials. Because if it starts turning into like a paragraph of credentials, it's unreadable and it stops being impressive after a certain point. So the credentials should show that the authority is informed and also that they are impartial. Okay, so they need to know what they're talking about and they need to not have something making it questionable whether or not they have a loyalty to something besides telling the truth. Okay, so let's look at this one. According to Dr. Lee Mandel, Harvard senior professor of criminology and public policy, prisons effectively deter crime in the long term due to the rate of recidivism among former inmates. And you'll notice that MLA style citation is super rad. Basically, we have QTD in Burns. Just as a side note, QTD means quoted in. So that means Dr. Mandel was featured as a person that was quoted in Burns's article. That's how you do that. And it's actually in one of the module pages. You can find that information as well. But here we have Dr. Lee Mandel, Harvard senior professor of criminology and public policy. So we have what his job title is, and that indicates also what fields he is an expert in. So is the senior professor of criminology and public policy the person who can say that prisons ineffectively deter crime and create people just going back to prison? Is this the person to do it? He's pretty good. He's pretty good because this is what he studies all the time. So he's probably done research on it or read the research himself. So this is an example of a nice attribution of the source of information so that we know that the testimony is authoritative. So an informed authority is either an expert who has studied extensively about the topic or has vast life experience related to it. To qualify as an informed authority, the expert must provide testimony on the specific topic of their expertise. So if you had somebody that studied child development and they were talking about how to build an amusement park, that's not really matching up, right? She's not expert on that. So here's what we have. Let's look at this particular piece of evidence and we will see how we can make it better, because Sylvia Browne, widely published author, claims that first-generation college students consistently do not receive all the federal aid for which they are eligible due to a lack of information about specialized small grants. So we have Sylvia Browne, and we have this information about what is missing in the financial aid packages and grant packages and basically the finances of first-generation college students. Would a widely published author know that? I mean, it's like, these days with the internet, like everybody could be a widely published author. And just because you got something published, it doesn't mean it's any good. And it doesn't mean that it's on the topic that you are talking about. So we need something more than widely published author for Sylvia Browne. Now we have a different attribution. Same quote. She's the secretary in the Department of Education. What do we think about that? Is she someone that could say something about college grants and the income of first-generation college students? Probably, yeah. She might have a sense of it. So this is a much better authoritative presentation for the authoritative testimony. So now we have this one. In an interview in Redbook, Bert Vogelstein said that cancer is the leading cause of death in smokers. Is it just because he was in something that was published in Redbook, which is basically like those magazines that give you diet tips and also like show you how to bake a cake? That doesn't really count, right? Like, so he was in Redbook, great, but like, how does he have the authority to say what cancer is doing and smoking is doing to anyone? So what if we said doctor? Doctor is also not enough because he could be a doctor of philosophy, right? He could be a doctor of literature. He could be a doctor of creative writing. That doesn't make it so that he knows anything about what he's talking about. But if we had something like this, John Hopkins professor of oncology, Bert Vogelstein, MD, said that cancer is the leading cause of death in smokers. He would be able to say it because he is a professor teaching about how to treat cancer, and he also has a medical doctor's credentials to go with it. So that's also a nice presentation of authoritative testimony. Here we have one that doesn't match. Giselle Atron, professor of fine art photography, argues that Clinton-era welfare reform placed an unfair burden on the children of working mothers. So, like, she teaches fine art photography. I don't really care, like, what she thinks about this particular topic if I'm going to feature it in a research paper, because she doesn't know. She's not authority on that. If I wanted to have something about fine art photography, she would be a great one. So you want to make sure, again, that it matches the authority that they have and the credentials that they have match the topic of what they are talking about. Then we have the next part. They need to be informed, but they also need to be impartial. Impartial means that an authority is able to express an unbiased point of view about a topic. Unbiased authorities provide information that is free from outside influence. Biased authorities, they do something different. They basically are less objective and might even change the truth because the content was created under the influence of outside people, groups, or ideologies. I will give you some examples of this bias. So these are the common types of bias. And when we talked about this in class, the fishiness of some of the sources that people were looking at, you guys know exactly what I'm talking about with this. Basically, it's just like someone's prejudiced, and so they just make stuff up that's not real because they want to confirm their belief or they want to put money in their pocket. So we have financial. That is one type of bias. If you're getting paid by somebody, you're probably going to move the information that you have into their favor or present it in a very sunny way. Political, if you picked a team and you are working for that team and trying to do something to move that team forward and you're a player in it, you might change what you're saying to kind of fit the politics that you're trying to represent. Moral or ethical, this happens a lot of times with people that do strange things with faith and also people that just feel like they have an authority over telling people what is moral and what isn't. Like activists can be this way. This is what's right. This is not what's right. That can change how people do stuff too. And then we also look, I kind of made a mistake there. Anyway, I'm going to carry on. So let's look at this one. Dr. Ike McCaslin, a senior researcher for Coppertone Industries, said that the use of sunblock virtually eliminates the effects of the sun. I mean, he works for a suntan lotion company, so he's obviously financially biased, right? Then we have BP Oil stated that environmental and governmental groups are slowing down their attempts to clean up the BP oil spill off of the Gulf Coast. So, I'm sure that is pretty biased, just because BP Oil is not going to really make themselves look like the people that caused the oil spill. They're just going to talk about, other stuff that sort of distracts from that. Same thing, Jerry Falwell, founder of the Moral Majority, argues that media de-emphasizing the importance of family is correlated with increased crime among young people. I mean, if he was like a sociologist or he did some research on this, maybe he's got a better way of, having credentials that match what he's saying, but what the hell is the Moral Majority going to do with information? They're going to make it fit whatever their morality set already is. So if they find information that doesn't fit with their morality, they'll just change it, right? So here we go. For authoritative testimony, you want to make sure that the experts are informed and impartial about the issue. The credibility of authorities is based on their credentials. So basically what you do, if we move back here, all you have to do is put these around the person's name. So we have Dr. Ike McCaslin, the title here, and then we have the piece of the credential that we want to feature. Notice the comma. Notice the comma. That is called a noun phrase appositive. So you have the person's name, comma, whatever it is that their credential is, comma, and then you move on through the sentence. So that's how you do authoritative testimony, and I hope that was helpful. All right.